Welcome back, guys. I had a request to redo what basically is my one of my most popular videos that I've done in the now almost 5 years of doing videos. And it, you know, in thinking about it, it made sense to redo the video for a couple of reasons. I'm going to leave the original video up because, first of all, it's, like I said, it's one of my most popular videos. It does a good job of its intended purpose. But I wanted to go back and redo it for a couple of reasons because, number one, I just kind of got done doing a 1 year with this truck video. And so I also wanted to do 1 year with this truck, how much money did I make video, including, obviously, about 4 months of the global pandemic. So just kind of give you an idea of where we're at running, and I've not taken any time off. I mean, I've taken a weekend here or there, but I haven't taken really any time off in the last 4 months for sure. But I have taken time off in the last year. You know, I took a week's vacation when my daughter went to college. So we're going to get to that and just give you an idea with taking normal time off, where I was at with how much money I made in this truck with new truck payment, all that sort of stuff. I also wanted to go more in depth. One of the problems with that old video, and I did, you know, I annotated it, I put a note in the description, made a separate video to explain. So the video is how does leasing work? And I want to go line by line this time and explain what each thing is on a settlement sheet between Prime and a lease operator. And one of the biggest questions that I got, and I still get people commenting, even though I made a separate video explaining the tank washes, but people looked at the tank washes and saw a deduction for the tank washes and thought, okay, I mean, I don't remember what the dollar amount was in that video, that I made that amount, but then I hadn't, you know, paid for the tank washes. But I'll explain that a little bit better. I explained it in a separate video. I'll go back and go over that as well. I also want to go over, you know, people ask me, do you pay for insurance on the truck? You know, all that sort of stuff, fees, licenses for the, you know, you obviously need plates for the truck. You need, you know, how does the IFTA tax work? So it just worked out perfectly where the settlement that I'm going to go over includes a quarterly IFTA report. So we'll go over that. It includes some detention on there. People also accuse me of doing this just for the money, and it will include some recruiting bonuses that I have gotten. And it'll just show you I'm not making a lot of money off of recruiting bonuses. I think there's like $15 in recruiting bonuses on this particular settlement. I'll show you that. So I'm going to be transparent about how much money I'm making from Prime off of recruiting bonuses. And the mileage charge. And the mileage charge is how you get to that end of lease bonus. And a bonus maybe is the wrong term for it, but I'll explain that a little bit more in depth. So we're going to cut over to the settlement, and I'm going to go down line by line and explain everything, and then kind of come back and recap at the end of the video. All right, so much like the last video, only thing that has been redacted, the lines that you've seen drawn through are personal information. You know, I've got a couple of bank accounts listed for where my pay is deposited, city I live in, zip code I live in, things along those lines. Other than that, this is everything that was in the last video, and everything that I get. And as before, just so you know, this is the entire settlement. And just like before, this is quite lengthy. I believe it's 16 total pages, 16 or 18 total pages. But I wanted to go through it line by line. And this is the first page. This is, again, revenue section. Let's get a nice little pointer here. Revenue section. So this is all the revenue for the truck for the given week. This is, you know, like I said, 1 year with the truck. So at this point, it was middle towards the end of July of this year. And I mentioned I would talk about referrals and that I don't make a ton of money. So here's 4 drivers that I made money on for referral bonuses this particular week. If you look over here, this driver made $1.21. This driver made $9.35. This driver made $5.76, and this driver I made 96 cents. It is a 1/4 cent per mile for drivers that have used my name as a referral. There are initial bonuses and things along those lines that are more than that, but once a driver becomes an AC driver, that's what Prime gives as a referral bonus. So like I said, it's about $15, and I'll show it a little bit later on what the exact figure is. But I'm not getting rich by doing these videos, and I know folks have talked about that. You know, you're only doing this because of referral bonuses, and you know, there's $15. That's not making me rich. I did skip over this. We'll go back. Easy Pass toll. Prime does pay 28% of your tolls. So for this particular, and it's not an exact science with tolls, meaning the tolls for this particular week are not always the previous 7 days. There's a little bit of a delay in reporting, but you're always gonna, you're always gonna get caught up in that. So for this particular week, 28% of my tolls with $15.84. So Prime reimburses me 28% of the tolls that I paid for this particular week. So there's the first 2. I mentioned here's detention. I was held over in Frankfort, Indiana at a delivery, and I got compensated $461.50. Detention is paid for, it depends on the contract that Prime has with a particular customer, how detention is paid. For what I do, it's all the same contract, so all detention is the same, and it equals out to roughly $48 an hour for detention. And you look at that and you say, well, geez, you're making $48 an hour? That's, you can't beat $48 an hour to sit and do nothing. Well, in this particular scenario, to get to $461 of detention at $48 an hour, I sat there for 24 hours, and you start to say, well, 24 hours, actually it's 25 and a half hours to be specific. Detention is capped at 12 hours. So after 12 hours, you're sitting for free, number one. Number two, because I sat there for 25 and a half hours, I did not get a load for the next day. I had been planned on something, and it would have paid me about $461 if I had done the load that I was supposed to do instead of sitting there. So I got compensated for not doing the load. You can look at it that way. But this trip is from actually a week prior. So I didn't get paid the week that happened. This was actually a week before. So, detention is what it is. It's unavoidable. If you get to in that particular situation, it got to a customer, they didn't have room, they were not using the product until the next day. So it's not like they could find more room to put the soybean oil that we delivered. So this is the rest here is exactly as it was in the last video. So here from Frankfort to Decatur to Lowell, Indiana to Decatur to Cleveland, Ohio, and again 267 miles. The load revenue was this amount, $635. Sorry, $635. So here it breaks it down. Loaded miles 156, empty miles 111, total miles 267, which is obviously the same here. The revenue is, you go back to the 635. Tanker drivers get paid 71%. Reefer and flatbed get paid 72%. So here's what it equals out to, which is $450.85 plus your fuel surcharge, which is noted above, $85.73. And then here it breaks it down into how much is that per mile. So this load paid $1.68.9 per mile. So you go through all of those, and here's how many miles I ran in this particular week. It's 1,970, which is not a lot of miles if you're an over-the-road driver. For what I do, this was an okay week. So total revenue to the truck was $3,839.15. I also got, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the video, my fuel tax adjustment, because the quarterly IFTA, IFTA is the International Federal Tax Agreement, has to do with the way taxes are collected for highway taxes for semi-trucks. Basically, and I'll get to it when we get to the page, when you buy fuel for a semi, you pay the tax at the pump, but you only pay taxes on the miles that you drive within the state. So just as an example, I bought fuel today in Ohio. I drove some of the miles that I'm going to use this fuel in Indiana. So the miles that I drove in Ohio are counted as Ohio taxed fuel miles. And then I have to use some of the tax that I paid when I bought fuel today and pay it to Indiana because I didn't buy fuel, but I'm using the road in Indiana. So the upshot is that the accounting department at Prime will track your entire set of miles, what state you drove them in, track who you owe taxes to, and then at the end they'll pay each state the appropriate amount. If you overpay, you will get a fuel tax adjustment positive, which I got $115.34 because I overpaid in a certain state that I didn't drive enough miles in, and underpaid in a state and was able to more than cover the amount of miles that I drove in, if that makes sense. It's complicated, and again, I'll show it to you on the page. So now we get to reimbursements, and this is probably the thing that was the most confusing in the last video. Wash interior. This is all tank washes. Almost every tank wash that I do is Decatur, Indiana. Decatur, Indiana charges $173.14. So I'm reimbursed for this. And folks in the last video were confused because if you're being reimbursed, it means you paid for it. Well, it's deducted down here. So it's deducted and then reimbursed. So it's a net zero. So if I'm reimbursed here, $173.14, down here, wash interior, $173.14. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wash interior, wash interior, wash interior, wash interior, wash interior, wash interior. 6 down in the reimbursement section. So that's a reimbursement and a deduction. That equals out to 0. I do not pay for tank washes. So there's your clarification on tank washes. APU rental. Your APU rental, if you have a new APU, is going to be $70. If anything breaks on the APU, it is completely covered. Accounting services. I do use Abacus. I know there are people who complain online and say they don't do a good job. I personally have never had a problem with them. $23.25. Again, this is deduction, so this is what they're taking out of my check. Toll. So again, the toll, and if you're gonna go look, this is from 7/23. The tolls are through 7/16. So like I said, it tends to be about a week behind. But I paid $54.65 in toll, and if you remember, I got reimbursed in revenue $15.84. There's your 28% that Prime is paying. Fuel card charge is $1. Comdata is the company that provides us with our fuel card. They charge us $1 to use it. Imaging, to scan our trips and to process and for payroll purposes, there is a $5 charge every week. You are not a Prime employee. As an independent contractor, the payroll people, that's how they get paid. Your federal highway tax is built in. There's $10.58. Licenses and permits. So There is everything that's a license and permit. Your IFTA sticker that goes on the truck, the HUT sticker for New York, your license plate for Missouri, all that stuff goes in. All of your, each state has various permits to be able to drive within that state. That's all in there. Deferred fixed costs, and you'll notice mine here is only 34 cents. The first year that you have a truck, Prime is going to break down the first week of your truck payment. And you are not going to have a truck payment the first week of having a truck, because Prime wants you to get out of the gates that first week and do well. But it's not a free week. They will defer your fixed costs for the first week, and then over the next 52 weeks, I think it is, they'll take it off. So my last payment was right there, 34 cents. It's around $20 a week to defer that truck payment and all the other fixed costs. And then they just bill it to you once a week. I am now paid off because there's my last 34-cent payment on what was a $20 a week charge previously. Truck payment, this truck is $963 a week. Owner occupancy account. People ask, what about insurance? Now, I'm not talking about health insurance for me. I'm not talking about eye insurance, vision insurance, dental insurance, nothing like that. I am talking about insurance on the truck, insurance on the cargo, insurance, they have bobtail insurance. That's what goes into the owner occupancy account. Cardinal sleep monitoring at $2 a week. Yes, I do have a CPAP. I've done videos on that. They charge $2 to monitor your CPAP compliance. And then we get into fuel tax charges, DEF. I'm skipping over the wash interior because we already covered that. Tractor DEF, tractor fuel, fuel tax charge, tractor fuel, fuel tax charge, tractor fuel discount, and DEF discount. Sorry, as I was looking down at the paper as I was looking and speaking about all that. That all has to do with purchasing fuel for the truck. I purchased fuel, 121.9 gallons in Ohio. I purchased 69.9 gallons in Illinois. Here is the discount in that particular case. $118.06. And there's the discount on the DEFs. Prime negotiates fuel discounts. You do not pay the pump price. You will pay much less than the pump price. The last thing on there is a mileage charge. You'll note that I have written down 5.25 cents per mile. And this gets into end of lease or lease completion. This week was $108.35 for, what did I say it was? 1,970 miles. That amount, $108.35, is put into an account for the end of your lease. Your lease completion incentive, and that's really what it should be referred to instead of a lease completion bonus. A lease completion incentive. Prime is taking 5.25 cents for every mile that you drive and putting it into an account. They're not going to pay you extra at the end of your lease. This is when you complete a lease, not when you turn in a truck before the end of lease. When you complete a lease, money that you have already earned and Prime has set aside at the rate of $5.25 cents per mile. Prime's setting that aside to pay you when you complete a lease. You can do the math about how many, if you've got a 4-year lease and you're going to drive 300 and some thousand miles, you can do the math what you can potentially make. Obviously, they're going to take out repairs that need to be done to the vehicle. We'll talk about tires in a moment because tires are considered separately, but that's where your lease completion incentive comes from, is mileage charge. There is an excess mileage charge on top if you exceed a certain number of miles in a given week. I will never get an excess mileage charge because of what I do. I just don't reach enough miles. That's primarily for team drivers. The next section is wage expenses. This is if you are a team driver or you are a trainer and you are training a co-driver, and you have to pay that co-driver out of your wages. Obviously there is no entry because I am not a trainer. This is just an extra page because there just happens to be not enough room. And this is the first place you see gross amount due to the unit. In this case, $2,240.97. That's not how much I made this given week, because the next page is about the tire fund. A separate account that Prime holds at 2.5 cents per mile is a tire fund. The tire fund, as noted, is a completely separate amount of money that is held aside by Prime for anything tire related. So you need to buy a new set of tires. You probably will over the course of a 4-year lease. You probably will at the end of your 4-year lease have to replace the tires that you've already replaced. If you have a flat tire, if you have a tire that gets a nail in it, you will probably need to replace a tire. At this point, I have $2,074.40 in the tire fund. This week I put $49.25 into the tire fund. I also have in a performance bond $1,500. That is another set amount of money that Prime has set aside as a performance bond to ensure that you are staying on track. This is where Prime calculate. So this is the miles you've driven quarter to date. So in this quarter, which the quarter had basically just started. It starts July 1st, so 5,175 in the quarter. Any driveline repairs. Driveline repairs are major repairs. Have not had to do any major repairs to this truck, so that is at 0. And then this is, Prime does have a guarantee. I know it's not talked about a great deal. Over the course of leasing, you are guaranteed to make at least 95 cents per mile. This current week, I made $1.63.9 per mile. Over the course of my lease, I have made $1.51.9 per mile. So I have made well over it. So I have made $129,098.07 over the course of the lease. That's in total revenue to the truck, which is $48,394 over the $80,703 that I have been guaranteed to make. So basically they're just saying, if you don't reach the guarantee, this is where they're going to make up for it. If this number, if your actual is lower than the guarantee, they will bump you up to the guarantee, and that's where this number will change. As you can see, it's still the same as the previous page, minus the tire fund. So right now, this week is $2,191.72. This is more math that basically just does the same thing as the previous couple of pages. Balance forward, that's if I owed money in a previous week. I do not. Tire fund, emergency fund, all that stuff. Subtotal, the interest. There is interest paid on the performance bond at 0.11%, a whopping amount of money. And then they do the math out and they say, okay, you get the net from the settlements, $2,191.80 after you do all the math. I now, from the last time I did not, now I do split my payments into 2 different bank accounts. I take 30% and deposit it at $657.54 for tax purposes, and $1,534.26 as a payment to myself. Now, again, this does not include, so this is gross payment to myself. No tax taken out. This is the 30% that I hold aside myself for taxes. This amount does not include any amount that I would have to pay if I paid for insurance, personal health insurance, anything along those lines. I do not buy insurance from Prime. I think this is a more fair way to show, because insurance is different for everyone. I'm going to pause here for just a moment, and I'll be right back to continue on. All right, so to continue, this is the direct deposit page to each individual account. And then the next page is really just a breakdown of everything they've already shown you on a grander scale. So, tire fund shows you this week, year to date, lease to date, the operator fund. So if the truck had been leased prior, so if you lease a used truck, it'll show that here. It shows that emergency fund. Here's anything for assets, so obviously shows you anything that you owe, anything that's in the settlement, how much you are to be paid, and then total paid to the operator over the course. And then again, same sort of thing here. This is just a breakdown: revenue, freight revenue, miles, total freight, other revenue. So if you get extra pay, here's your detention, your fuel surcharge, inspection award. If you get a clean inspection, if you go through a weigh station or something like that, they pay you $100. Things like that. And then variable costs, breaks everything down. So it's a good breakdown of the entire amount that you have paid and you have been paid. So it breaks everything down. And then there's this week, 2,191. There's year to date, so through the middle to late part of July, 34,492. And lease to date, which is 52 weeks, 65,660.01. Do the math, $1,262.69 per week. Again, did this video, I really haven't had a lot of time off in the last 4 months. I have taken time off over the course of the lease. I did take basically a week off during when we took my daughter to college, which was at this point a little less than a year ago. So, weeks that I'm working, obviously I'm making more. Weeks that I'm not working, I'm making less. Now, here is the this is the toll. This is a breakdown of every toll that I went through during the time period. This all happened to be actually on one day. And you can see $54.65, which is the amount that was shown. Here is the fuel information, and it breaks down what state. So you've got Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Michigan, Ohio. So that's basically where I run for the most part. It shows you how many gallons I used in each state, how many miles I ran in each state, how many gallons I purchased in each state, the difference, the tax rate. So this kind of is a good job of explaining how much I paid, how much I used. And again, Prime does all that for you, and that's where it shows I overpaid that $115.34, and that's where it was reimbursed. But that's how IFTA works, where they track how many gallons you used and how many miles you drove in each particular state. Obviously, I drive most in Indiana and Ohio, and then Michigan and Illinois would be next on that list. And then, as before, the last several are actual bills. So this one happens to actually be a bill to Frito-Lay in Frankfort, Indiana. And this is where you can take a look and say, I'm getting 71%. Am I getting screwed by Prime? Here's how much they actually bill the customer, and you can do your own math. Am I getting 71% of that? And so this is the last several pages of this is each individual bill for each trip on your settlement. All right, we're going to come back in just a moment. I will wrap up this video talking about how leasing works. So there you go. Hope that helped. Hope that clarified some things that might have maybe been off in the first version of this video that I did. If you are a Prime lease operator, or if you're wanting to come to Prime, or really, I don't think it matters if you're lease or not. Under My Prime, under the document section, I highly recommend you get this and you print this off. This is the payroll settlement codes. Left-hand side is a 2-letter code, and it corresponds to the left-hand side of your settlement. There's a 2-letter code for everything that's on your settlement, whether it's a pay, whether it's a deduction, revenue, whatnot. And this explains what everything is. So if you have something that doesn't make sense, you can at least start here and take a look and say, just to, CH is childcare, and that's costs associated with Prime's Learning Center. If you have kids and you want to leave your kid at Prime has a childcare at the Springfield terminal, you can leave your kid there. They're going to charge you, and they're going to charge you to your settlement, and then that'll be noted with CH. But that you can start and you can get an idea of what something is if you don't understand it. Obviously, if you're a lease operator, highly recommend you take the ACE 2 class. I'm a little bit hypocritical because I have never taken the ACE 2 class, but I've been leasing for more than 5 years at this point. Been doing it fairly successfully, and should I take it? Yes, probably at some point I should maybe take the ACE 2 class, and I'll probably learn something. But I think I have a pretty good idea of how it works at this particular point. I do realize that this particular week that I showed you was a decent amount above what I showed as an average, but I did also want to show that 1 year with this particular truck, how much money I made. I don't take a ton of time off, but I also don't work a lot of weekends. I don't take a week off here, a week, I'm off at least 1 day a weekend. This is a Sunday that I'm recording this video. I had yesterday off. Typically I work Saturdays and have Sundays off. Just so happened that this week I worked on a Sunday instead of a Saturday. But that's just how it is. I do typically have 1 day off every weekend. Very, very rarely will I work 2 days on a given weekend. I also just happen to take a day off during the week. Of course, as a lot of you know, I do live about 10 miles from the Prime tanker terminal in Decatur, Indiana, and I had some business to take care of, some appointments and whatnot, so I took a day off during the week. I'll do more of that sort of thing than I will take long vacation, although I do have a vacation, and really when I take a vacation, it's typically a long weekend. I'm going to take, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, as opposed to taking a full week. But that's what I've done over the course of that 1 year, and that includes the time that we were slower here with the pandemic. So I definitely wanted to include that. And again, even though that 1 week was on the higher side, that happens. As noted, I would say probably 1,400 is a typical not taking a day off week. This particular week was higher partially because of that detention that was included in there. But that's, $6,300 or $63,000 over the course of a year. Not taking a ton of time off, and also working through this world that we're living in. Hope that clarifies a lot of the questions that might have come up from the last video. Thanks for watching. If you do want to join the 4 folks who are, giving me a couple of pennies here and there as a recruitment bonus, you can certainly use my name when you do apply. I've said it before, I'll say it again. No skin off my back if you want to use my name. If you don't want to use my name, it's nice to get a couple pennies here and there. It's paid at 1/4 cent per mile, so you can do the math. You have to really run hard to get really a significant benefit for me. But if you do want to come to Prime, there is a link in the description. As always, this is what I do instead of training. Very difficult to train with what I do. You can't get a lot of miles. Only have one bed. Just not my style. So this is how I like to give back. So if you have questions for me, certainly comment below. Use the email in the description. Or as always, you can submit questions to the Driver Advisory Board. Thanks for watching. Hope everyone's staying safe and healthy. And we will talk to you next time. Hope you found this informational.